Have you ever felt the silence before a storm? That quiet moment where absence speaks louder than words, and suddenly the person who seemed distant is the one you feel the most. That is the turning point. That is the moment when absence becomes presence and missing someone transforms from a thought into a force that changes everything. Have you ever noticed how absence has a way of filling every corner of your mind? At first, it feels like emptiness, like a quiet room with nothing to hear, nothing to see, and nothing to touch. But soon you realize that absence is never truly empty. It carries echoes, shadows, and traces of what once was. The moments you shared, the laughter you took for granted, even the small, almost meaningless gestures, all begin to occupy space where nothing else can live. Absence has weight. It presses on the heart and leaves a mark you can't ignore. It is in this weight that you recognize its power, the way it shapes not only your feelings, but your entire perspective on connection and love. When someone is gone, every little detail becomes amplified. You find yourself replaying conversations in your mind, recalling the way they smiled, the way they held themselves when they were around you, or the way their presence made the world feel brighter. These memories, at first comforting, soon become haunting. They remind you of what is missing and, more importantly, what mattered. That realization is the first step toward understanding that absence is never void. It is alive with echoes of the past. It teaches us that even when someone leaves, intentionally or unintentionally, they leave behind a presence that lingers in ways words cannot capture. The impact of absence is not just emotional, it is physical. You feel it in your chest, in the way your stomach twists when you remember a shared joke or a whispered secret. Nights feel longer, and days lose some of their color. The ordinary acts of life, walking down a familiar street, hearing a favorite song, even sipping coffee in the morning, suddenly remind you of what is gone. Absence transforms the mundane into a mirror of loss, forcing awareness of the depth of connection you once had. It is in this subtle, almost invisible influence that absence proves it is never empty. It infiltrates your body and mind with a presence that cannot be ignored. Absence also sharpens the understanding of value. It exposes the truth that often goes unnoticed in the noise of everyday life. We only truly comprehend the weight of someone's presence when they are no longer there. Their laughter, their advice, their warmth, what seemed ordinary suddenly becomes extraordinary. And that gap, that vacuum created by absence, is filled with realization. You start to see their significance with startling clarity, and every memory of them becomes a lesson in appreciation. Absence teaches the invaluable skill of understanding worth before it is permanently gone. Moreover, absence is a test of patience and resilience. When someone is distant, it challenges us to confront feelings we might otherwise ignore: longing, disappointment, and sometimes regret. These emotions are not comfortable, but they are instructive. They force us to look inward, to reconcile our own expectations and desires with reality. And in that confrontation, absence reveals its true power. It is never merely a void to be endured. It is an opportunity for growth, reflection, and emotional strength. The emptiness is deceptive. It carries lessons, insights, and understanding that only time and reflection can extract. Finally, absence prepares the heart for truth. In the quiet, when distractions are gone and the world slows down, you face reality in its rawest form. You realize that missing someone is not a weakness. It is a measure of how deeply they affected you, how much they mattered in the story of your life. Absence is a reminder that relationships, connections, and human presence are precious commodities that cannot be taken for granted. It teaches you to honor what was, to reflect on what is, and to prepare for what may come. And in this way, absence is never empty. It is full of meaning, significance, and the undeniable truth that some people leave permanent imprints on our hearts, even when they are not physically present. There is a unique kind of power in silence. It's not the absence of noise. It's a presence of truth that cannot be ignored. When someone stops speaking, when messages go unanswered and calls remain unreturned, the emptiness carries a weight far heavier than words ever could. Silence has a way of cutting through distractions, stripping life down to its rawest elements. In that stillness, every thought, every memory, and every feeling comes to the surface, and you are forced to face realities you might have been avoiding. Words can be misleading, they can be rehearsed or manipulated, but silence is honest. It reveals what cannot be hidden. Silence creates space for reflection, even when it is painful. When he does not reach out, the mind begins to wander through the maze of what was and what could have been. You replay moments, analyzing each gesture, each sentence, searching for a clue, a reason, a sign. And in that analysis, a strange clarity emerges. Silence, in its own way, becomes a teacher. It forces you to confront the depth of your feelings, the intensity of your longing, and the undeniable reality that absence, spoken through silence, can be far more expressive than any declaration or promise. More than that, silence tests patience and emotional resilience. When someone you care about withdraws into quiet, it's natural to feel frustrated, confused, or even rejected. But it is precisely in these moments that true understanding begins to form. The turning point often arrives not when he finally speaks, but in the space before, where the lack of words forces introspection. You begin to see not only him in a new light, but yourself as well. How much do you depend on validation from others? How much strength do you have to carry your emotions without someone confirming them constantly? Silence is harsh, but it is transformative. Silence also amplifies desire. There is something in the absence of communication that makes presence feel infinitely more valuable. The longer he stays silent, the more the heart recognizes his significance. Every memory is magnified, every detail becomes vivid. The quiet does not erase the past, it sharpens it. Laughter, shared dreams, tender gestures, all come alive in the mind with astonishing intensity. It is here that you feel the invisible thread of connection pull stronger than ever, proving that silence, far from being empty, is a loud and undeniable force shaping emotions and perspective. Interestingly, silence exposes truths that words often conceal. People can speak out of fear, pride, or a habit, masking their true intentions. But when words fall away, motives, feelings, and priorities reveal themselves through inaction. If he misses you, that longing will find a way to express itself, not always through direct communication, but through subtle signs, timing, and presence in ways less obvious yet unmistakably real. Silence strips away pretense, leaving only what is genuine and unfiltered. It challenges us to recognize the unspoken truths that shape relationships and to honor the honesty hidden between the spaces of what is said and unsaid. Finally, silence teaches patience and perspective. In the quiet, life slows down and reflection deepens. You start to understand that relationships are not defined solely by words or actions in the moment, but by the lasting impression someone leaves on your heart. You recognize that missing someone is not a sign of weakness, but a measure of the impact they have on your life. Silence, in this way, is not a punishment. It is a mirror, reflecting the depth of connection, the weight of emotions, and the reality that true presence is often felt more profoundly when it is absent. Silence speaks, and if we listen carefully, it tells us everything we need to know. When someone is gone, the mind begins to replay the past in vivid, almost surreal detail. Every memory, no matter how small, becomes magnified. A casual laugh, a fleeting glance, the way they stirred their coffee in the morning. These ordinary moments suddenly feel extraordinary. Absence has a way of shining a spotlight on what we once overlooked, highlighting the richness of connection that we often take for granted. Memory doesn't merely recall the past, it enhances it, making every shared moment sharper, brighter, and impossibly more precious than it ever felt in real time. Memory becomes a lens through which we measure the depth of our feelings. When he is absent, your recollections grow more detailed, more intense, and more emotionally charged. You find yourself noticing patterns, nuances, and subtleties you never appreciated before. The small acts of kindness, the unspoken support, the laughter shared in private moments, all of it resurfaces with a clarity that surprises even you. This magnification is not accidental. It is the mind's way of reminding you of what mattered, of what left an indelible mark on your heart, and of the emptiness created in the present by that absence. The magnification of memory can be both beautiful and painful. Each recollection brings warmth, but also a pang of longing. You realize how much you miss their presence, how much their absence affects the rhythm of your days. Ordinary experiences become triggers for nostalgia, a song on the radio, the smell of rain, the feel of sunlight on your skin, all suddenly linked to them. Memory turns into a bridge between the past and the present, allowing their influence to remain alive even when they are physically gone. The heart learns to travel backwards, finding solace and sorrow in the very same recollection. Memory also teaches perspective. In magnifying the past, you gain insight into the depth of the relationship and its meaning in your life. You begin to see patterns of love, care, and connection that were invisible in the noise of everyday life. It forces you to confront both the beauty and the imperfections of your shared experiences. The more absence stretches time, the more you understand the layers of the relationship, the laughter, the disagreements, the compromises, and the unspoken bonds. Memory magnifies not to torment you, but to reveal the richness of human connection and the enduring impact of those who truly touch our lives. Magnified memories inspire reflection on self and growth. When absence intensifies recollection, it encourages the heart to examine its own actions and choices. Did you appreciate them fully when they were present? Did pride, fear, or distraction prevent you from saying what needed to be said? Memory magnified demands honesty and introspection. It becomes a quiet, persistent guide, teaching you not only to honor the past, but to learn from it. Through reflection, you recognize patterns of love, attachment, and vulnerability that shape who you are and who you wish to become. Finally, memory magnified creates a sense of longing that is powerful and unavoidable. It fuels the turning point when you realize that missing someone is not just a fleeting feeling. It is a force that reshapes your inner world. Each recollection carries the weight of presence, even in absence, reminding you of the love, the connection, and the irreplaceable moments shared. In this way, memory magnified is never just about nostalgia. It is a profound reminder of impact, significance, and the emotional truth that when someone truly matters, their absence makes the heart feel their presence more than words ever could. There's a certain intensity that rises when absence lingers too long. Desire doesn't announce itself softly. It grows unrelenting until it occupies every thought, every quiet moment. When he is distant, when his presence is no longer an everyday certainty, the heart begins to feel a pull that cannot be ignored. It's no longer about casual longing or gentle nostalgia. It's a deep, undeniable need. Absence sharpens desire, magnifying it beyond control. It's in this intensity that the turning point emerges, the moment when you can no longer pretend that your feelings are simple or fleeting. Desire thrives in the space that silence creates. When he does not reach out, every memory, Every shared moment becomes a spark. The mind plays over these fragments of the past, turning them into an almost tangible force that pulls at the soul. It is no longer a quiet thought, it is an energy that demands recognition. And in this energy, you begin to realize the gravity of what you feel. Desire, fueled by absence, is both enlightening and relentless. It exposes the depth of attachment, the intensity of connection, and the truth that some bonds cannot be ignored or diminished by distance. This undeniable desire forces self-awareness. You start to confront questions that had previously gone unasked. Why do I feel this so strongly now? Was it always this deep, or has absence revealed the full measure of my heart? Desire becomes a mirror, reflecting the intensity of your own emotions and revealing the areas where longing has remained dormant. It teaches you that what is absent is often not simply missing in space, but missing in impact, showing how someone's presence, even when gone, can command attention and stir the soul in ways nothing else can. Desire is also instructive. It teaches lessons about priorities and clarity. When the heart aches, the mind cannot remain indifferent. Absence forces you to distinguish between fleeting curiosity and profound connection. It shows what you truly value and who you truly need in your life. The intensity of desire is not merely about wanting someone back. It's about recognizing the depth of the connection and understanding the consequences of their absence. Desire, in this sense, becomes a guide, pushing you to confront emotional truths that comfort alone can never reveal. Yet desire can be both beautiful and cruel. It carries the warmth of memory and the fire of longing, but also the ache of uncertainty. When he remains silent, when he is distant, the heart oscillates between hope and despair, between fantasy and reality. This tension, uncomfortable as it is where growth occurs. Desire forces engagement with emotions you might otherwise suppress, illuminating what really matters and what cannot be ignored. It is undeniable precisely because it cannot be silenced. It is an inner force that insists on recognition, reflection, and action. Finally, undeniable desire signals the turning point. It is a moment when absence and longing converge, creating a force that demands attention. You cannot simply move on without confronting it, without understanding the depth of the connection, and without reconciling the impact of what is gone. Desire, intensified by absence, compels honesty with yourself, with your feelings, and with the reality of the relationship. In this way, the undeniable desire is more than emotion. It is a catalyst, awakening awareness and pushing the heart toward clarity, reflection, and eventual resolution. Absence does more than make the heart ache. It forces the mind to slow down, to pause, and to look inward. When he is missing, you are left with space, and in that quiet, reflection begins to take shape. It is in these moments that the heart confronts truths that were hidden in the business of everyday life. You start to examine your own choices, your reactions, and the ways in which you may have taken the connection for granted. Reflection is rarely comfortable, but it is powerful. It illuminates not just the impact of his absence, but also the lessons your own heart has been quietly learning all along. Reflection sharpens awareness of what truly matters. In the silence left behind, the trivialities fade and the essential truths come forward. You recognize the moments where you could have been more present, more honest, more courageous. You see the ways in which pride or fear shaped your actions, and you confront regrets you might have ignored. But reflection is not about blame. It is about understanding. It teaches that missing someone is not only about longing for them. It is about recognizing the deeper currents of your own heart, the values and priorities that define your emotional world. This reflection often sparks clarity. You begin to see the relationship in sharper focus, not idealized, not diminished, but real. The turning point arrives when you understand both the beauty and the imperfections, the joys and the struggles, the love and the mistakes. Absence gives perspective that proximity rarely offers. You see patterns you could not perceive when caught up in the moment, and this awareness becomes the foundation for meaningful change. The heart, once clouded by habit and expectation, now has the chance to recalibrate, to grow, and to prepare for the next steps with wisdom. Reflection also ignites self-improvement. When someone is missing, the longing that rises within you can be directed inward. You ask yourself, how can I become someone who deserves the love I want? How can I act with intention rather than fear? In this space, change is born, not from external pressure, but from an internal realization that your heart, your actions, and your choices matter. Absence challenges complacency and encourages growth. The turning point occurs when reflection moves beyond nostalgia or regret and begins to shape who you are becoming. Moreover, reflection deepens emotional resilience. When faced with silence, distance, or uncertainty, you are forced to confront vulnerability head on. You wrestle with emotions you might otherwise suppress: grief, longing, fear, hope, and desire. Through this confrontation, you build strength. Reflection is a crucible where emotional endurance is forged, teaching the heart to withstand absence without losing itself. The process is neither quick nor easy, but it is essential. It is in this space of contemplation that change is not just imagined, it is ignited. Finally, reflection ignites action, the most powerful form of change. Insights gained from introspection do not remain idle. They demand acknowledgement and movement. Whether that action is reconciliation, communication, or personal growth, reflection transforms longing into purpose. The turning point comes when you realize that missing someone most is not merely about pain or memory. It is about awakening the courage to act, to shape your future, and to embrace the lessons that absence has revealed. In this way, reflection is both the spark and the fuel for transformation, proving that even in absence, the heart is capable of extraordinary growth. Longing is a powerful emotion, but it is incomplete on its own. The ache of missing someone can linger endlessly if left unchecked, but the heart has a way of transforming that energy into action. When he is gone and his absence is felt most, the desire and reflection you've carried start demanding a response. Longing becomes a catalyst, urging the mind and the heart to move beyond passive yearning. It is here, at this critical turning point, that inaction is no longer an option. The heart must decide, the soul must act, and choices must be made. Action born from longing is intentional and purposeful. It is not driven by panic or impulsive emotion, but by clarity developed through reflection and emotional intensity. You begin to discern what matters, what is worth pursuing, and what can no longer be ignored. Every thought of him, every recollection, every pang of desire becomes a guide, pointing toward meaningful steps, whether that is reaching out, seeking closure, or transforming yourself in ways that honor the connection. Longing is the spark, action is the fire that ignites from it. This is also the moment where courage is forged. Longing exposes vulnerability, and vulnerability demands bravery. To act in the face of uncertainty, to confront emotions that have been dormant or suppressed, is no small feat. It takes courage to reach out, to speak the truth, or to take a step that may change everything. Yet it is precisely in these acts born from deep longing that the heart proves its resilience. Absence has taught you the cost of hesitation, and now action becomes a way to seize control of your narrative rather than be controlled by circumstance. Action born from longing is transformative. It does not only affect the relationship, it transforms the person taking it. The process of acting, of moving in alignment with the truth of your feelings, strengthens character, sharpens clarity, and builds emotional intelligence. You begin to see that longing is not just about what you miss, it is about what you are capable of when your heart is fully awake. Action becomes an expression of love, self-awareness, and empowerment, turning vulnerability into strength and uncertainty into direction. Furthermore, action closes the gap between thought and reality. Longing alone leaves the heart suspended in what ifs and hypotheticals, but action converts emotion into tangible outcomes. Whether the result is reconciliation, personal growth, or acceptance, the act itself validates the depth of feeling and ensures that absence is not wasted. The turning point lies not in the intensity of longing, but in the courage to do something with it, to channel that energy into steps that matter, rather than allowing it to stagnate into regret or despair. Finally, action emerging from longing is a declaration of presence and power. It signals that the heart, even in the face of absence, refuses to remain passive. It transforms longing into purpose, memory into insight, and desire into deliberate choice. In this way, missing someone most is not an endpoint. It is the beginning of movement, growth, and possibility. The very force of absence, once heavy and painful, becomes a vehicle for transformation. Action proves that the heart is never truly idle, that longing is never wasted, and that even in the quietest moments of distance, the soul is capable of moving mountains. And so, here is the truth. Missing someone is not a weakness. It is not emptiness, nor is it meaningless. It is a mirror reflecting the depth of your heart, the weight of your connections, and the power of love that cannot be erased by distance or silence. Every absence, every memory magnified, every desire that rises, it is all part of a journey that teaches patience, reflection, courage, and ultimately action. There will be moments when the silence feels unbearable, when longing threatens to overwhelm you, and when memories haunt more than they comfort. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments where transformation occurs. The turning point is not when he returns or when the world aligns perfectly. It is here, in the heart of absence, where your soul awakens to its own strength, clarity, and purpose. Remember, this absence is never empty, silence is never meaningless, and desire, when acknowledged, has the power to ignite change. Reflection turns longing into understanding, and understanding turns into deliberate action. Even when he is silent, even when distance feels infinite, your heart has the power to move, to grow, and to transform the space between into something meaningful. So embrace the silence, honor the longing, listen to the lessons that memory and absence bring, and know that when you are missing someone most, it is not just a test, it is an invitation to awaken, to act, and to discover the extraordinary strength of a heart that refuses to remain passive. Because in the end, it is not absence that defines love. It is how you rise through it, how you reflect, how you grow, and how you turn longing into action that leaves an imprint far greater than presence ever could.